Namaste. The chosen prayer from the prayers and meditations of the Mother. We take a prayer today written by the Mother on March 22nd, 1914. And in this prayer, the Mother reveals what is a genuine prayer. And she also reveals to us how she intervenes and how she turns every offering that we make to the divine into a genuine prayer. How she brings that light and love and devotion and that opening that we require to turn all our seemingly worldly prayers also turn to the divine. Even, she says, even a flash of sincerity. So, the first and foremost quality of a prayer is that it should be sincere. It should have the sincerity of aspiration. Yes, love and devotion is there, but sincerity is, you can say, it is of top priority. Sincerity of aspiration. And even a flash of it, even momentarily, when we have this genuine sincerity within us, then it paves the way for the divine action. When that happens, exposed are all our parts which are not enlightened, which may hinder our own opening towards the Mother, or there would be parts in us which would get converted to their spiritual equivalent. This is how the transformation happens. So genuine prayer will always change elements in us which prevent us from moving on this path, which prevent us from becoming a true instrument for the divine work. And a genuine prayer will always make us work towards the best expression of the divine law. Even in our ignorance and in our limited conceptions of the divine that we harbor, we utter prayers that are insufficient to awaken an aspiration. They may rise, they may not rise. The Divine Mother, still, such is her love, she intercedes and makes an opening for us as if she is waiting for just that moment in us. And from that moment, she lifts us, she takes us into her arms. Interestingly, the prayer written on March 22nd, 1914, there is a context and also a small setting to it. The mother is on her way to Pondicherry, and throughout this month she is traveling, and she's about a week away from reaching the shores of Pondicherry, and her ship Kagamaru is steaming towards India. And incidentally, March 22nd, 1914 also happened to be a Sunday. And on the ship, a service was organized. And somewhere the Mother has narrated the way the people dressed, the way the people wore their suits and ties and their best dresses. Some even carried their umbrella for the gathering. The Mother, of course, she did not attend this service. And after having attended this Sunday obligation and their duties done, the people, they turned to their usual amusements and carried as if nothing from the service they carried, and they went on with their usual amusements. So the Mother was asked by the clergy, why you did not attend? So Mother said, this didn't seem like a true communion with the divine, and neither you nor anyone was actually praying for that true communion. And this was her answer. Yet, the Mother, after the service being done, the Mother, on all her fellow travelers who were traveling with her, she bestowed her love and her kindness, and she prays for them. In this prayer, she prays for them so that though the prayer is talking about, she's praying for these fellow travelers who are traveling with her, yet it has universal value. This is what the mother does always. She's always there with us. And even in our meager offerings, the divine, she says, the divine never rejects or spurns our lowly offerings. In this mock display of devotion also, there is some good that can come out. At least the atmosphere, a congenial atmosphere is created. And at least the people who are attending that, or the people who are gathered, they know that there is some higher power to which they are turning. In their ignorance and their limited conceptions, they may not have the most sincere of aspirations, but yet these kind of settings do have their own value, and somewhere a spark may be lit because of this environment or because of the people. Somebody, or in some moment, that spark of sincerity may, you can say, shine in us. And so the prayers that we actually offer to the divine, if we look at our own selves, and if we look, many times they are reproaches, Oh Lord, how cruel you are. You have given me so much of misfortune, I can't handle it. Why are you doing this to me? So, and in another place, there may be a sort of a bargaining. Lord, if this business deal clicks for me, I will give you 10% of the gains, or I will give 10% of my salary to the church or to the temple, or I will get a diamond studded on the crown on your idol. So we try to do this kind of hard bargaining, and most of us, we strike these kind of hard bargains with the divine, offering a token obeisance for very high rewards. While asking for boons, we place the divine on the highest pedestal. And then we make demands on his omnipotence. And but in return, what do we offer him? We shell out petty doles that we would give to an unemployed or a mendicant. But the divine, this is the greatness of the divine. The divine never rejects any of our offerings, however low, however shallow they may be. He humors us like his misguided children. And gradually, through these offerings, he creates conditions for us to enlarge us, to widen us. That is his way. Sometimes we pray as if, we have learned some prayers, and the prayers may be just rote recitations. I remember in our school, I studied in a convent, and the prayer was, Our Father in heaven, holy be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And we had learnt it. Every day it used to be. We didn't understand at that point of time. Yes, now I understand. Yes, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. It makes sense. But at that time, they were just rote recitations. But even those rote recitations, they got so much imbibed, either due to the utterances somewhere they got lodged. And today, at least, I understand what the prayer stood for. And I can understand and say the same prayer with a lot more meaning. So this is the divine's way. Even the rote recitations, the mechanical prayers, you can say, they have their own value. So basically what the divine is trying to do is, he's trying to make the best out of the worst bargains for us. So on this Sunday, the mother intercedes on behalf of these people whose prayers she feels are insufficient to awaken, yet she intervenes. She puts her own love, she puts her own light, and she prays for them. Let us read this prayer. March 22nd, 1914. O Lord, Divine Master of Love, enlighten their consciousness and their hearts. They have made an effort to reach out towards Thee, but because of their ignorance, their prayers probably did not rise to Thee, and their false conceptions have barred the way to their aspiration. Yet, in Thy mercy, Thou dost turn all goodwill to account and a flash of sincerity is enough for thy divine light to use it to illumine the intelligence, for thy sublime love to penetrate into all hearts and fill them with that pure and lofty benevolence, which is one of the best expressions of thy law. What I willed for them, with thy will, in moments when I could be in true communion with thee, grant that they may have received it on the day when, striving to forget all outer contingencies, they turn to their noblest thought, their best feelings. May the supreme serenity of thy sublime presence awake in them. Though this prayer has a context and a setting, yet it has universal value. This seems to be like a direct prayer for those who have just embarked on the spiritual journey, and there is still a lot of ignorance in them. Initially, when one starts on the spiritual journey, people are under a lot of notions that spirituality means this and spirituality means that. It is religious, it is doing good, it is giving donations for charity, chantings, it means visiting, going on a pilgrimage, going to all the holy places, following rituals, fasting, and whatnot. We have these strange notions when we start on the path of spirituality, because we are entering spirituality with our own, with our own limited conceptions that we have gathered on the way till now. The mother says, everyone carries the divine within himself, and therefore, everyone has the possibility of uniting with the divine. And whether it is science or whether it is religion or whether it is normal talk, we know that there is only one God. And how is it then that some people move so fast on the path, some move a little slowly, and there are some very enlightened soul, and we are not even able to figure out where in this ladder of hierarchy are we? So the difference is actually, as it is being brought out by the mother in this, because of our limited conceptions of the divine. We have formed these conceptions. We have an idea of the divine, and we want the divine to be like that. And if he's not like that, then he's not divine. So we go by this. So she brings it out in the very first passage, how the false conceptions, they act as limitations for us on the spiritual path as we embark on it. O Lord, she says, divine master of love. So the mother, somewhere she has said that initially when she would be writing in French, she used to address the divine, and she had a few phrases by which she would address the divine. And one of them was, very prominent was, O Lord, O God, Lord God, master of love and mercy. So here also she is calling the divine as the master of love. Why love? Love is the most potent power. It has the transforming power. It is the bridge from where we are to where we can go, where the divine can lead us. So, O Lord, divine master of love, enlighten their consciousness and their hearts. They have made an effort to reach out towards thee. But because of their ignorance, their prayers probably did not rise to thee, and their false conceptions have barred the way to their aspiration. So we usually have an idea of the divine which suits our nature and our conceptions, and according to our personal tastes, according to our possibilities of understanding things, according to our mental preferences and also our desires. We want the divine to be this and that. And people, what they want from the divine largely depends on this idea that they carry about the divine within themselves. And they wish to meet the divine as they are conceptualizing him. So naturally, they limit their realization, because the divine is certainly not bound by human conceptions. My conception of the divine is there, your conception of the divine is there, and so are thousands of people, millions of people have their own conceptions of the divine. And all conceptions, somewhere or the other, are true in many ways. But the divine, is it limited to only those? The divine is that, and the divine is much more than that. And when one realizes this, one actually starts moving towards the integral yoga. So, instinctively, and without even being aware, most people are seeking from the divine what they believe is either their comforts or what they feel they need on the path. So, for some person, the divine may be a friend. He has a personal relationship with the divine. For some, he may be an impersonal God sitting somewhere high up there and looking at everything with benevolence. Some believe that he is like a stern judge. He can put you to test and he can punish you. It's one of the, I think, the most monstrous forms of the divine, one can say. He puts us to test, he punishes us. And some of them may think he's an embodiment of love. And some may think he is all this, and yet he is much more than this. So the mother is actually seeing the divine as the master of love, because love transforms all. And even when we turn to Sri Aurobindo and the mother, the images that we form of them, the conceptions we form of them, they have their own value. And there comes a time and a stage in yoga as we proceed by the mother's grace, where we start experiencing the image and it becomes a living image for us. But the mother, she moves us, she gives a nudge to us so that we can even overcome, we can even go beyond this. And this is the kindness, the love that the divine feels for us. So images and idols and all these primary aids, one can say, these different ways of, gatherings or what, they have their own value. So as a fond parent, as a toddler, children, they may squiggle a little bit on a bit of paper and give it to the parent excitedly. The parent accepts that. Or they may make some mud pies or give it to their parent, and the parent would love that and the parent would encourage. Or maybe a simple twig, or maybe a small thing that he has drawn, an illustration in his own little way. The toddler gives it to the parent, and the parent humors him and the parent encourages him. The divine also is kind of doing like that, because he's the father and the divine mother is there. So she looks at our meager and ignorant offerings and prayers, and through these, she tries to make us sufficiently awake so that we can, at one point of time, we can have a prayer which is rising in all sincere aspiration. So the divine accepts all our offerings. Not only that, but it seems like the divine is sitting and waiting like an angler. I'm sure most of you must have seen a person or seen somewhere a person sitting with a fishing rod. There is a hook and a line, and the person has to be very quiet and just has to wait. So the divine is actually waiting like an angler, and where at one moment we will leave all our preoccupations and cares, and unawares we may wander, in spite of our limitations, into the lap of the Divine Mother, and we may invoke her in the most sincere way. That moment may be very fleeting, but then we are finished, because the Mother has picked us up and placed us on her lap then. And so she further says in the prayer, "Yet in thy mercy thou dost turn all goodwill to account, and a flash of sincerity is enough for thy divine light to illumine the intelligence for thy sublime love. Love has all power. Sublime, it can bypass anything. Sublime love to penetrate into all hearts and fill them with that pure and lofty benevolence, which is one of the best expressions of thy law. So the divine waits for that moment where, in a flash, the divine light will illumine us, and the divine grace, we will open to the divine grace, which is anyway there, but we open to it with that flash. And we will gain the capacity to break all our limitations and open ourselves to the light and the love of the divine. And in this moment of sincerity, when we offer and turn to the divine, all begins to change in our life. And all begins to change does not mean that if we are living in a flat or an apartment, we will start living in a palace. It may be just the reverse. But situations, things will suddenly change, start changing. And why? It is the divine's workings. Whatever there is dark in us, whatever is preventing us from uniting with Him, the Divine Mother has her ways of pulling them out from us, sometimes with kindness, sometimes with situations where we will be compelled to look upwards and acknowledge that yes, she is there and I need to turn to her. So this is the prayer of sincerity, or this is the moment of sincerity, of aspiration that the Divine Mother is waiting for. The Mother says somewhere, if you turn to the Divine and say, make me thine, even fleetingly, and the Lord has said yes, then nothing can prevent you from uniting with Him. Nothing in the world will prevent you. And Sri Aurobindo in Savitri, he has written these very strong lines in Canto 2. A prayer, a master act, a king idea, can link man's strength to the transcendent's force. Then miracle is made the common rule. Till this moment happens or takes place in our life, we are actually moved by what we call in Hindi as Vidhi ka Vidhan, by nature's laws, cause and effect. But when we are on the spiritual path and such a moment has taken place, then we are freed even from that cause and effect. And we move beyond cause and effect. And we are not moving beyond by our own effort. It is she who is lifting us and taking us beyond all laws of nature to do what she wills for us. And this is the point of no return that the divine very patiently waits for. Sri Aurobindo, in one of his letters to one of his disciples, he wrote, to those who ask God for worldly comforts, yes, the divine gives them. He will fulfill their needs. But to those who give themselves to the divine, He gives Himself, and He gives all those things that He may have otherwise wanted. So a true psychic prayer is one when one is sincerely turned to the divine with the aim of giving oneself and not getting things for oneself. Arjuna, he prayed. There was a choice, given to Arjuna and Duryodhana, whose side Krishna will be and how Krishna can help in the battle of Kurukshetra. And Krishna was neutral, but he left it to them. Duryodhana, what did he ask for? He asked for Krishna's army. It's not a small army, it's Krishna's army. It's a very, very powerful army. So he asked for that. And Arjuna felt very relieved that Duryodhana has asked that. Because what Arjuna asked was, Lord, be with me. I don't need any of your armies or any. If you are there with me, I am confident. Just be with me. So this is Arjuna's prayer. In Savitri, the mother, Savitri, she asked for two boons, One is that her father-in-law's, Satyavan's father's kingdom may be returned back. And the traditional story stops over there with this boon. But Sri Aurobindo, he takes it one step forward. What Ma Savitri, she asks? She asks for the soul of Satyavan to come back and do the work for the entire humanity, where it is meant to be. So she's not limiting herself to only the kingdom. She goes beyond, much beyond that. Nachiketa, we have heard the story. In Katha Upanishad it is there. Nachiketa, he lands up at the doorstep of Yama. And because his father has asked, he asked his father, whom do you give me to? He says, I give you to the Lord of Death. Go. Why? And because Nachiketa had protested when his father was giving all those, old cows who could not even, they were so feeble and they were so weak. So he was, in the name of offerings, he was giving away those. And he called it donations. So Nachiketa was disturbed by this. And there is an altercation between the father and the son, and Nachiketa lands up at the doorstep of Yama. And Yama tries to dissuade him because he wants to know the secret of immortality. So Yama dissuades him, and he tries to give him wealth, riches, palace, strength, money. And Nachiketa asks him one question. He says, what you are giving me, is it everlasting? And then Lord of Death is baffled. He says, no, if you are seeking everything to be everlasting, then only the Creator has this. But then Nachiketa persisted. He wanted to know the secret. So Lord of Yama, he says, okay, I will teach you how to move towards it. And then he goes on to the triple Vedi of the Yajna and all, fire of aspiration, how to light it and all. He teaches him. But the point here is that he says, I am ready to give you this secret and I am ready to teach you this because you have asked something not for yourself, which is, you did not, something that in the Katha Upanishad they say prayas and shreyas. Prayas is when you seek for gains which are momentary. They are not lasting. They will vanish. So you are not asking for prayers. You are asking for something higher. And not for oneself, but for your father and actually for humanity. So this is shreyas. This can take your soul across births, and this is everlasting. So he grants him that. So most of the time we are asking for temporary boons or, comforts, things like that. Shanabhangur, in Hindi we call it, no? So, but when the soul is seeking the divine, that is the genuine prayer. When the prayer rises from the soul, in the most sincere aspiration, Lord, make me thine. Do what you want with me. That is the supreme prayer. That is a genuine prayer. We are talking of a prayer which we are offering to the divine. We are talking to the divine. We are conversing. We have beautiful examples from our own, you can say, there are stories of where people have turned their whole life as a prayer. Their whole life is a prayer. Sudama ko dekh lijiye. He goes to meet Krishna after his friend, and his wife has given him a whole list of things. Why? Because at one point of time you shared your sattu with him. You shared your food with him. So he must give you now. He is so rich and he has all the powers. He must give you all this. And we are so poor, we need all these things. So she gives him a whole wish list. And he carries that. But when he meets Krishna, he can't. He can't ask Krishna for that. Because for him, only the mere presence of Krishna, his friend, that's enough. And whenever Krishna is with him, he forgets. And after some time, it's time for him to return. And he is walking back in a dilemma. What am I going to tell my wife now? I did not ask for any of those things. I should have maybe, but he's in a dilemma. But anyway, he reaches and what he finds, his hut has been turned into a palace. So Krishna knew all. So because he gave himself to Krishna, so Krishna took care of all his needs. So, and there is a beautiful prayer in Sanskrit, na tato, na mata, na bandhur, na bhrata. It's written by Shankaracharya. In the whole prayer, he's saying, all my life, I have been, I have led it with, I have rather misled my life, with defects, with fear, with inadequacies. But yes, one thing I have done right. Gatistvang, Tvameka Bhavani. I have done something right. And that is, I have called out to you, I have taken refuge in you. In spite of everything I have been doing, I have taken refuge to you, I have turned to you. And that is the deciding factor. Then you are the Lord's. आप भगवान के हो चुके हो. So when in that flash of sincerity, which pierces through our limitations, what happens? And what is the sign? What actually happens? We become more benevolent. We become less critical. We become less self-centered. And we start moving towards our own higher self. We are less bitter and we are more perceptive to what the divine is trying to do for me. And this the mother calls as pure and lofty benevolence. So moving to that state. The mother also reveals one more aspect of the divine in this prayer. That is, the divine does not give the fruits in the measure of the sadhana, but in the measure of the sincerity of our aspiration. She brings that out. So sincerity is the single conquest to be made. It is most difficult, but most effective. And so hours of prayer, hours of sitting, meditation, contemplation, they all become, after some time, they may be necessary, they may not be necessary. It's not necessary for us. As long as we have a very sincere call, these prayers and meditations, there is a talk of the mother to Mona Sarkar where she's revealed that he has written that she has written these prayers perhaps in the early morning hours where she is making a cup of coffee for herself. And wrapped in her Kashmiri shawl, the coffee is in the making and she is penning down these prayers which are written meditations, her own conversations. So she has broken all rigid ideas that one needs to pray, one needs to meditate, sitting in a particular posture, in a particular room, going to this, doing, preparing for it, nothing. If there is, when we are consecrated to the divine in details, consecration in theory and principle is very easy. We know that we have to do this, we have to follow this path. But consecration in detail, how much open are we to the divine? Are we readily telling him everything? Good, bad, ugly, everything. Are we putting to the divine? Are we telling, okay, I am eating a meal, ma, come sit and eat with me. I am embarking on a journey. Am I putting it to the mother? And disciples have done that. So this is what the mother also means by consecration in detail. And she's showing all this through these prayers and meditations. And so the mother, she's asking for all actually to be granted this illumination so that the hearts may be filled with the love and everybody may rise and feel this pure and lofty benevolence. And they would forget their outer conditions, their outer turmoils, whatever is happening in the outward world. But yes, the inner connection is made. And turn to the divine in their most, she says, in the noblest of their thoughts. The highest and the purest of thoughts and feelings. That is sincerity. When we are ready to even offer that. So she says, what I willed for them, with thy will, in moments when I could be in true communion with thee. Last Sunday we had talked of this, what is true communion, And when we will, we want the divine will to take place, but we want the divine will to be as per our will. That is our tendency. But one who is very sincere, aspiring in all sincerity, puts the will to the Lord and says, Lord, thy will be done. So she's saying, when I'm in true communion with thee, when I'm in that state I'm praying, because I know that I am putting my will to your will, let thy will be done. She's totally surrendered in detail to the Lord. And in that moment, she's saying, I'm praying in that moment. Grant that they may have received it on the day when, striving to forget all outer contingencies, they turn to their noblest thought, their best feeling, So this is not a random prayer. This is not a chance prayer that the mother is praying. And she is not saying, okay, Lord, whatever they ask, give them that. It is not that. She's saying when. But she's asking the divine to bring them to that moment where they turn to you in their noblest thoughts, in their noblest feelings. She means that. She's not asking, okay, Lord, give them whatever they ask for. हम लोग ऐसे कई बार प्रे करते हैं ना, भगवान उनकी इच्छा पूरी कर देना, है ना? So we love somebody and the other person is praying and we say, भगवान इनकी इच्छा पूरी कर देना. So she's not doing that. She wants everybody to be lifted, everybody to feel, everybody to turn to the divine in all purity. And she's praying that everybody's aspiration may rise higher and higher and reach you, Lord. And she ends the prayer with again a very, very vast sentence. May the supreme serenity of thy sublime presence awake in them. Supreme serenity. When one is feeling the divine presence, when we are in that presence, our thoughts turn to Him, our hearts become full of love, and what we experience is a vast, calm serenity. And in that serenity, there is unadulterated joy. There is no mixture from any world, outer, inner, it's only for the divine. And that supreme serenity she is wanting for everyone. And sublime presence, because the divine's presence, the moment you feel this divine presence, everything starts changing. And these are the conditions. You feel that supreme calmness, supreme serenity. And in that serenity, we will know what the divine wants us to do. So, we may never know how our prayers are going to be answered. But one thing we can be very sure of, that the divine will get us involved in His plans for the answer that we are seeking. That much we can be very, very sure of. And the mother has said, so many times she has said, I am with you, I am near you. And indeed she is. This prayer is a proof. She is interceding on behalf of people she has just met on the voyage. And she's doing it for everybody, each one of us. I would like to read out a few, you can say, sample prayers, genuine prayers, which to me, this is from the book The Mother, written by Sri Aurobindo. And the disciples used to write to Sri Aurobindo, and they had a lot of questions about the mother. And but this is where the consecration in detail and what are the qualities of a genuine prayer. They would put everything to the Lord. You know, initially they had this conception that mother is very stern, but slowly they came to know she's an embodiment of love. And so is the Divine Master. So they used to put questions, they used to write him letters. So letters on the mother, there are a disciple has written short prayers, how he has made his consecration in detail and how he is praying. In the night time, when I sit to read and an untimely attack of sleep comes, I pray to the mother to be freed from the attack. And Sri Aurobindo says, if your reading is a part of the sadhana, that is all right. When I go to sleep, he writes further, I pray to the mother for her force to take over my sadhana during the sleep, to make my sleep conscious, luminous, to protect me during sleep, to keep me conscious of the mother. When I wake up at any time in the sleep, I pray to the mother to be with me. Sri Aurobindo again endorses it and says, these two are also part of the sadhana. While going out for and during walk, I pray to give me force to take more exercise and to gain more strength and health, and thank the mother for the help. So thanking in advance. If strength and health are requested as being necessary for the sadhana, Sri Aurobindo says, and the development of the perfection, it is all right. Then he says, when I see my any dog on the way while walking, I at once pray to the mother to protect from its attack and remove my fear. A call for protection, Sri Aurobindo says, is always permissible. The removal of fear is a part of sadhana. Yes, do open, that means. When I go for food, I pray to the mother's force to help me to offer every morsel to the mother, to get everything easily digested, to make a growth of complete equality and detachment in my consciousness, enabling me to take any food with equal rasa of universal ananda, without any insistence or seeking or greed or desire. Sri Aurobindo says, this is also a part of the sadhana. When I go for work, I pray for the mother's force to take over my work, help me and make me do. This also, he says. During the work also, when there is a pause, I pray for force, help and constant remembrance. This also, he says. When any bad or impure thought, seeing or sensation come in me, I pray for its removal and purity. This also, the Lord says. When I am reading, I try to pray when possible to understand all quickly, to grasp and absorb completely. If the sadhana is for the instrument, the Lord says, it is all right. When I commit any mistake in the work, I pray to be more conscious, alert and unerring. This is also part of the sadhana, the Lord says. Very interesting prayer. When I go to the post office to register a parcel of prasad to my friend, I pray to have the parcel accepted immediately and avoid any delay. So even the smallest, unimaginable how the disciples, they opened to the mother and Sri Aurobindo. This can be done if avoidance of waste of time is considered as part of the right regulation of the life of sadhana. So the Lord is not saying yes, just like that to everything. He's pointing out, okay, if it is needed for your sadhana, yes, it is all right. When it is not all right, he is also pointing that out. When I sit down for meditation, I pray for the mother's force to take over my meditation and make it deep, steady. This is a part of the sadhana, Sri Aurobindo says. I think we can read the prayer once more, no? It's a short prayer, but a very profound and interesting prayer. March 22nd, 1914. O Lord, Divine Master of Love, enlighten their consciousness and their hearts. They have made an effort to reach out towards Thee, but because of their ignorance, their prayers probably did not rise to Thee, and their false conceptions have barred the way to their aspiration. Yet, in Thy mercy, Thou dost turn all goodwill to account, and a flash of sincerity is enough for Thy divine light to use it to illumine the intelligence, for Thy sublime love to penetrate into all hearts and fill them with that pure and lofty benevolence, which is one of the best expressions of Thy law. What I willed for them, with Thy will, in moments when I could be in true communion with Thee, grant that they may have received it on the day when, striving to forget all outer contingencies, they turn to their noblest thought, their best feelings. May the supreme serenity of Thy sublime presence awake in them.